So I share that story because from an impact perspective, it's not just about investing in blockchain companies that have an impact mission, but it opens up access to capital in a way that is currently not available in certain markets. So to fast forward a few months, when I met with them, I said, have you thought about doing an ICO? And they looked at me and said, what's that? It took them about 2 months to research it and figure out that this might be something that they would want to do. And so 2 months later, they came, started to work on it. In January, they raised $30 million in 8 days, were voted the best ICO of the year by Huffington Post, and are now well on their way to accomplish what they've intended to. So that's one example. The interesting thing is that they were the first to build an energy trading platform where you could trade the excess energy your rooftop solar produces halfway across the world. There are now 6 or 7 companies in less than a year doing the same thing or some version of that. So just wanted to share.
But they were also a real company. They had.
Yes, so they were, unlike many ICOs, they were a real company with
real
revenue and customers and growing fast, and so the blockchain component was an additional business line for them, and that really complemented what they were already doing.
Awesome story. It's so good. Oh, give it back. Okay, go ahead. Did you want to
I wanted to just say something on, because that's another example, and I hope people really heard what she just said, that there was a real company that had real revenue, and then it tokenized. That's different than the noise that's been going on in the last 2 years. So I don't want people in this room so, oh yeah, that's how we'll do it. It's like, no, I mean, you have to have a real business, and that's the way the market is moving. And it doesn't mean that the Wall Street boys have moved in. It's just logical. Do you really want to invest in something or own a token or something that has no revenue, no proof in anything, and you're not even sure, the people have never worked together before, and it's a new market? It's like, come on, there's just some basic questions that anyone would ask. You have to ask in this space as well. The other thing, though, that we don't touch on often enough in this kind of a forum is we keep focusing on cryptocurrency as it's one thing for me to take this and tokenize it, right? And you decide to sell it to you, and you decide it's a token, and you pay me $10 for it, and then you maybe somehow, now this token gets listed on exchange, and you sell it to somebody else, and somebody buys it for $20, or there's or someone buys it from you, and fine, that's a transaction that takes place. It's different if you could buy that token, and take that token, that digital token, and go into a store or a restaurant or paying your bills. Then you're starting to piss off the government. Now you're messing with money. Now you're messing with fiat currency, and you potentially, that's the real ultimate battle that's coming. And that's global. And that's what everyone, so keep in your mind, this is one thing to do this cryptocurrency trading, and you're trading this currency and that one, fine. If it's speculative, one day it's up. Remember, there's another thing too, is this whole discussion about volatility. How else do you make money unless there's volatility? So this whole idea of trying to introduce stability and all that, that's for the institutional guys. If you're a trader, you want volatility. So I just want us to have a part of what we try to do is make sure we always elevate the conversation, really understand the scope. Again, no one's asking you to write code here. There's just a basic fundamental thought, how to perceive this. And that's where the regulators are really concerned about. How are you using this? How is this going to someday replace the dollar? That's a national security issue, period. Not kinda, not maybe, ha-ha over dinner, no. That's a conversation at Justice, that's a conversation at the Treasury Department, and they're talking to the ministry in London, and they're talking to the planet, all our allies. Wait a minute, whoa, central banks going away, no. So there's a big battle coming, and that's the battle I want when people are reading articles, I want them to be able to put things in their profit buckets.
Well, that battle, you think they're already thinking that, talking about it.
Oh yeah, they're not stupid people.
But how do you think that's going to play out?
They're going to lose.
Who's they?
Governments are going to lose.
You really think that?
Oh, they can, the technology is faster than they can move. Now, you talk to them, oh no, we'll handle this, we know how to stop this. But as administrations change, look at the current administration. Are they trying to really stop any kind of anything? So, you know, it's a kind of, it's really very serious. It's a revolution. And that's a tough thing for many people to get their heads around, where everything you know changes. Everything. And that's what I believe started at the introduction of the World Wide Web, when it just went from text and just a bunch of universities and DOD sharing data, and professors and academics talking to government folks, to the commercialization of the internet. That's when it all
Now,
began.
it's just a continuum from that.
In my opinion, it's just purely an
That's
evolution.
really the digital revolution's kind of next
It's
phase.
next phase. Just not. How could it say just internet and just how we're just all going to stare at Google and Google's going to sell our data or Facebook's going to sell our data? And that's the way it's always going to be. Stop. No, of course not. No. It's just a matter of time. Facebook's business model is gone. It's gone.
Why do you say that?
Because they're making money on your data and mine, my pictures, who I talk to, my contacts, and they own it forever.
So you
Read
think,
the terms of service.
so that's going to
right
be
now.
blockchain. That'll blockchainize. It'll become blockchain.
It's not
Probably
just
what the
that
verb is.
there are technologies that are coming that are built on that technology that they're flipping the business model. Yeah, you can sell my data if I allow you to, and I get a piece of what I get paid for my data now, and I only want this piece of my data. Just the rest of this is mine.
And that's all in your blockchain
That's
kind of world.
exactly. So that's what's coming. We see it. There are folks out there working on that now, and many different. That's the identity piece. So that's what I was trying to say. That we can talk about cryptocurrency, but this is life. Every aspect of who you are is going to change. Please understand that. It already has. It's not like I'm speaking out of Can you imagine life right now without the internet? Most of us in here know CD-ROM and know what it is to get. We don't know records and albums. Now I went to CD-ROMs, and then from CD-ROMs went to no, that's gone. It's just distributed. It's just.
So you think 10 years from now, 20 years, we'll look back?
In 12 years, I even think that this word blockchain, and it's part of the organization that we're building here. I don't know if that word's going to be relevant. Do we have is going to the Silicon Valley TCP/IP in 10 years? I could have called it that. No, no one talks about it. It's a protocol layer. It's baked in. It's the way it will be. That's the revolution, and that's what I'm excited about with automated trust. No more bullshit. No more games. No more explaining how you can get around the rules. No more. No more.
Huh.
That's what I believe now.
People share this. I know there's a guy back there that's been, wait a minute, and just see hands of people who want to do it. I see you have one. Yeah, questions or whatever. Okay, good. Well, let's get the guy back here stepping up.
Hey, I'm Garrett Kinsman. It's very interesting that humanity is reaching a consensus. But in terms of the economic aspects, we're seeing this is funding wireless networks, it's funding the city of Berkeley, it may be funding Puerto Rico. But who's to say that this can't fund something like a city on Mars? Where are the moonshots, the tokenized moonshots? And do you think that as we see the market caps reach into the trillions of dollars, we're going to see these starting to fund projects that can never be funded today? Thank you.
Did you want to
I will say that someone who works closely with the Silicon Valley Blockchain Society, that is his vision. He's what's called a crypto whale or crypto billionaire, and he can't wait. I mean, his whole vision is to get us to wherever humanity's moving, wants to move humanity forward in his perspective, right? Now, if someone has a different perspective, that's been the problem all along, though, that we all have to be concerned about. It's this, when Jeff Bezos becomes the first trillionaire, which I think he's on track to be in a not too very far period of time from now, absolute power corrupts absolutely. He could be, I don't know, funding dolphins and genes and American U.S. People with human genes merging together or something. It would be something bizarre. We have to figure out how to manage that. Yeah, there could be a moonshot, but how about a moonshot solving Alzheimer's? Or can we as a society help direct or comment or participate in what that moonshot should be? Or is it left to the individual, which many of my libertarian friends feel it should be, and many of my conservative Republican friends feel it should be. And I'm not getting into discussion of left or right. This is a revolution that's happening as we're living it. I'm just saying, is that absolutely wrong, or is there a role for society and comment and participation, since we're all impacted by it? The social impact and social questions around this are massive, and we have yet to, we're doing it now. We're doing it now. We're finally having dialogue, and people are leaning in like none of us have ever seen. We all know about the internet, and now look at all of us in this room. And it doesn't matter, you can have gray hair, and you can have, but you want to know what's going on. You have a comment, you want to participate, you want to learn, because this you can learn, and you know you can because you've already been using the internet this long. So this is part of the revolution. This is like, wow, people, you know, like I said, 5-10 years ago, people weren't meeting up and talking about this on a regular basis. You're talking to me how you want to have a series on blockchain related. It's never changing in all the impact.
It's interesting. We have been thinking about that just because there's so many pieces there. I mean, we're just touching on a million things here, folks, but it's just, everything is moving fast. And I've been through a few other fast-moving tech spaces, and this is up in that league.
This is, I've never seen this before.
There's a guy right here who wanted to say something. Go ahead.
My name is Krishna.
Yeah, you look the other way.
Hi, my name is Krishna. I'm the founder of Agile Entrepreneurs. It's a network of founders of startups who are bootstrapping. And our mission is to help entrepreneurs succeed on their own terms, with or without funding, without being dependent on external funding. So we've been doing it for about 12 years. Now we've been looking at having our own co-working space to kind of help them collaborate. And there's a structure around that. And I've been thinking about what you said. I've been looking into this whole token thing. We don't want to be dependent on investors and their fickleness. So how do you see what do you see about, I'm hearing about the token, the social mission you're talking about. Even the investors I've been talking to, I'm telling them we are not giving equity. This is all about helping the entrepreneur succeed. So I see a possibility with the tokenization of entrepreneurs contributing to their own success.
I think there's, yes.
Yeah, that's the question.
I think it's unlimited, the number of ideas. The issue again is what I still tie in. It's crowdfunding. And let's say you raise a chunk of cash. How long is that going to last? And then where's the next round coming from? Where's that extra additional cash? That's the long-term view in planning for your organization. And that's why still, honestly, I see that as a problem for most impact-related nonprofit entities. Yes, wow, we raised $300,000. Everyone here knows how far can $300,000 really go. You got a couple people, and you're paying them, you're paying rent, you're paying all that. It just goes but so far. So it's a challenge.
Can I just add one thing? We are a co-working space business model, so it's a cash flow machine. The only challenge we have is the initial seed capital to get the first co-working space up and running, and then it will start making money, and it's a chain. So we're not looking to laser.
Are you up and running now?
We have done it in kind of loose ways. We are in the process of closing a deal to have a co-working space up and running.
And then you'll have revenue?
It will make cash and profit.
No, and when it generates revenue, I don't know about profit. I just want to ask about revenue.
Revenue and profit.
If you're generating revenue,
yes,
somebody somewhere will be interested.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Yeah, I just want to ask a little question here before we go to the last couple of questions, because we're getting to the end game here a little bit. How many people share the feeling, and there's a lot of smart folks in this room, that there's a revolutionary piece to this blockchain that really is something, oh my God, it's like almost unanimous. How many people have doubts, just healthy doubts? Doesn't have to be, okay, there are folks with healthy doubts on what's going on. All right, does anyone with a healthy doubt want to just, because I was going to think of phrasing a question here, but is there anyone who feels confident wanting to just at least, okay, let's get this guy in the back here. Just give us a sense of, just say who you are and just give us a sense of what you're worried about or thinking about.
So my name is Greg Ellen. I've had the opportunity to work in civic tech, work in the federal government, work at the early days of the internet. I think one of the interesting things about where we are with the web right now is that in our lifetimes, we're getting to live through a radical democratization of many items that previously had barriers to entry. And we're getting to see the optimism about what that democratization would enable and the faith that it would bring out the best in humankind. And the reality of what we're seeing now, of what people have done with that democratization, and the greatest threats that people are worried about can be traced back to the democratization of weapons, the democratization of genetics engineering, the democratization of people being able to collaborate together, especially in politics. There's a court case going on right now before the Supreme Court regarding a baker who didn't want to sell the cake to a gay couple, right? I am amazed that the potential to embed inside of a permanent record agreements and rules and other things. When we talk about destroying fiat currency, we are democratizing currencies and methods of transactions among very small groups of individuals. And so there are so we are already witnessing the significant consequences of democratization and the removal of friction. And so that's where the skepticism comes from.
You haven't said it exactly, but are you talking about, let's say, the last political cycle and how things kind of went
Well, I don't think you have to
off the
go
rails?
just to the political cycle, but I think that's clear. But I think email was great. Email was fabulous because it removed the friction of sending a message. And what it did was remove the friction and cost of sending a message.
So now,
And so now we're inundated with messages. and so you can look at that, but then you can just repeat this pattern. And I think, it was really interesting. I remember many years ago, Dana Boyd's early work, where she was saying, oh my gosh, there are anorexic support groups that are popping up in AOL and Facebook. And these support groups were not about getting over your anorexia. They were about supporting you having anorexia. And now we're seeing that, and we're seeing that ramp up. So you can look at this, you can look at spam, you can look at these community groups, and then you can map it to what's happening in the divisiveness of politics today, and trace it to the ability for people to go tribal because they have the means to support those tribal communities in a way that they have not had before because of the necessity of relying on the larger group.
fascinating. And then you're applying it to blockchain is another
No,
decentralized technology. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that analysis. I'm sorry, that gentleman's name? Well, in any event, your name? I'm sorry. Greg. Hi, Greg, David.
Hi, David.
I agree with your analysis completely. But I'm I can't believe this much says I'm an optimist in the sense that, and not that you're a pessimist, or that your argument is. What I'm saying that I want to respond that I've come to the conclusion, I was like, initially like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking that feared AI, that unchecked, and even Bill Gates. And then I talked to a whole bunch of people about it in the space. And I came to the conclusion that, again, our foibles are fundamentally illogical. And I believe in math and science, unlike maybe our current administration, some folks support them, but I believe in math and science. And I'm optimistic that the technology, yes, initially, there are biases baked in, and it's causing that decentralization is going to help those biases for a while. but I think there's an opportunity that AI, with the embedded technologies, this is just a protocol to make sure things are tracked and they actually are secure, opposed to other things, but it's going to ultimately be AI and the role of VR eventually in AR. But I think there's an opportunity that maybe intelligence will not allow that certain things to happen.
You don't think that the first thing
Give him the thing.
Yeah.
you don't think that one of the first things that's going to happen when the ability to buy bonds for a few dollars comes around, that half the people that are currently having their money put inside of a managed retirement fund are going to rip that money out of it because they don't trust the government people?
Yes, I was.
You know,
one of them.
I mean,
Yeah,
right. I mean, that is that.
I saw that with the different kinds of plans. There's the literally manage you can manage it yourself, a certain percentage, or you give it to the professionals. Even though there's a great track record, this is all they do 24 hours a day, and here you are as a secretary at DMV, and now you want to rip it out because I want to control my money. I got it. I didn't say it was going to be smooth. I don't remember. I don't think agrarian to industrial revolution was smooth. I don't think industrial to information age was smooth. I think people lost their jobs by the thousands. I think there's a whole lot of mess that took. I believe that. But I also see. I've been in my life. When I step back and I say what's inevitable, and I believe what I think is happening is inevitable now. I'm trying to get on the right side and help create policy and have these discussions to help us think about those issues and how to deal with those issues.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. We are coming up against, this is a live stream, and we've got kind of a format of about 90-minute format here, and also I don't want to keep anyone too far from the drinks and from what's going on here. The next round of food that comes out. So I don't know if we can accommodate all the hands up here that really want to do it, but the beauty of the evening here is that we don't have to go home. We got food, we got drink, we got time, we got people here, and this is a really, really fascinating conversation. And I think if we just started to get, I mean, there's literally, I saw 10, 12 hands just go up here. I think the best thing we're going to have to just do is have this conversation with each other. And we're just going to have to say, this is the beginning of a conversation, not the end of a conversation. It's been an interesting conversation here over the course of a lot of rough and crazy terrain. But let's just keep the conversation going, but that's all, go to the bar to do it. Yeah, thank you.